Today we're going to be implementing the final piece for making the ultimate emulation beast with an arcade machine that can actually do everything, with a storage capacity of 144TB and an insane gaming machine in the inside and beautiful displays. And we're going to be having some really interesting concept because the Daniel Spice made this emulation beast especially for me. I went to his place because I said I love Arcade 1UP. I love the overall form factor because it's so easy to bring with me. However, I wanted to have a big machine, or at least a little bit bigger, and that's more comfortable to play with all of the cool features that he normally does. So he accepted the challenge. You can see everything about this build on his channel, where he did an in-depth about how he actually made it from scratch and actually made this, and just bring you with the full process how he actually did this. Today we're going to be transforming the Daniel arcade to the ultimate arcade you will ever need. So let's go. I did a full review, or at least I did a full video with Daniel Spice. However, when it comes to, let's say, the details and everything, I actually skipped a little bit of it, with a simple reason, because I want to do an in-depth video about it. I've been using this thing for quite a long time now, and I can tell you I really enjoy it. But there was one upgrade I didn't do when I was with Daniel. So yep, we're going to be having an upgradability situation. So this thing is actually also modular, so meaning we can actually completely tear it down, control panel, up part, down part, and that is super convenient if you want to transport this thing. And that's one of the things, the key features I actually want to just have, because this is going to be so much easier to bring this machine with me. Daniel, I must give you a lot of kudos because you did an amazing job for making this modular as possible. There are so many parts inside of this machine. You know, there's a massive cable harness that you need to disassemble. But after following some instruction of his, I can tell you, putting it back together was super easy. It will take me around let's say 30 minutes up to an hour, depending how the configuration is and what you actually disassembled. But it's quite easy, and the way how you can bring this with you is still a very pleasant way, and you can just easily unplug everything what you're going to be needing unplugging for disassembly of the machine. But what is kind of funny, everybody who comes into the Wicked Cave seeing the Daniel Spice machine, they're flabbergasted how big this thing still is. This is not this massive excruciating machine like Daniel also makes, but this is just something of an, let's say, between, let's say, an Arcade 1UP, but also still having the size and the quality of Daniel Spice. And that was actually one of the reasons I really wanted to have a machine like this. You can see this thing is absolutely a nightmare for fingerprints, that's one thing to be sure. So one of the minor adjustments I actually did in the inside, if you're going to be removing the back pedal over here, you can just see that we're going to be having a massive PC in the inside. So okay, don't mind the cable nightmare, because I actually did a lot of, let's say, ripping all of the tie wraps because I needed to transport this machine. So I actually switched both of the fans at the bottom to actually intake, so you know the overall cooling is perfect. But also remove the second panel, because this is one of the features that I'm going to be using a lot. This thing has been removed many times, because every single time I need to boot up the computer and if I want to use all of the drives, I need to enable the freaking docking separately. So I must say that the Overkill drive you can actually see in the video is not being used by him anymore. So he actually stepped to a different brand that is even better than the one I'm having over here. But it doesn't spoil the fun, because this thing works just fine. So when it comes to the configuration, you can just basically click it open and you can add your drive, the amount of drive that you actually want. So we went for the full kit because we're going to be making the most gracious machine that you can ever build at the moment. So that's why I actually went for the drives, and they will also be recognized separately. A super easy configuration, and that this way we can just have an insane amount of storage and add your games fairly easy. And where 144TB is absolutely an insane amount, I can tell you, if you're going to be loading up a lot of different games from Steam, adding all kinds of different emulators, you will actually burn up a lot of storage capacity. And by the way, this docking only needs one USB super fast cable and one power supply. So that's super easy to use, so let's plug it into the machine. We're going to be having the power strip, and this is absolutely one of the great examples what Daniel does. When it comes to the power strip, he uses a high quality one. Nevertheless, we're going to be having the subwoofer over there, and we're going to be having at the left the special amplifier they're normally using in pinball machines. And the configuration of the 2.1 system is absolutely awesome. Already mentioned before, like in the Ryzen PC, but of course you can swap it out with something else. And the first 24TB will be in the machine there. We can adjust the speed of the fans with this controller over here. So we do having all kinds of different power supplies, and they are going to be separately for the power for the amplifier, and of course we're going to be having the cables for the 24 volts for the retro shooter. But let's go up. Let's talk about there. You can really see like the screws over there for the modular system. There is a gigantic hub, because we're going to be needing so many USBs. The power supply over here for the monitor. So I'm actually using a 27-inch monitor. That's like a super high, let's say, refresh rate, and very nice one. And I think that's one of the key features for the overall, let's say, authentic gaming experience. So, and in here we're going to be finding the Retro Beast. So this modular machine is already filled up with all of the different storage capacities. We can remove it fairly easy if you want to. We've already talked about, let's say, the drives. So what you can actually do, like upgrade it every single time. And again, like the system will automatically recognize the hard drive itself. I think this is absolutely one of those very cool ways to actually play. But if you don't want to have all of the drives, you can actually just buy the ones that you just need, or get yourself the 24TB that is pre-installed in my PC there. That's already like a great image. Then you can have like more than enough storage to install all of my Steam games. The keyboard, that is not really interesting, but we do have like enough ventilation, and I can tell you with the two fans at the bottom over there, it actually sucks in enough, cool, fresh air to get the system in the perfect temperatures and not overheating at all. An LCD marquee, a 27-inch display, and then we're going to be having a full set of controls for spinner, trackball, and a lot of cool arcade games you can play this way. But let's boot up the system, because that is something we're going to be doing first. So the first boot up will be without the hard drives, because you can actually just boot up the system without the extra hard drives attached to it, because that is also a very cool modular system. The mainboard I'm running is Gigabyte, still one of my favorite ones actually to buy. Every single time I'm buying a PC, I'm buying a Gigabyte mainboard. However, let's give this thing a little bit time to boot up, because it's a full freaking, let's say, Windows 11 based machine. But a lot of software is going to be running and booting up. But again, everything has been set up by Chris itself. So, what I love about this is that it's going to be an easy way to just add your games and play stuff. I actually went for the Ultimate setup because Daniel is actually one of the things that he also does. But I must say that I've become a really big fan of the Ultimate overall configuration because of the high quality products. Because I think it's absolutely great. But again, it's my personal experience. So it's already booted up and we're ready to go. We'll automatically get into the front end. So with this system, you can actually see that the Cyber Beast system check, it actually says like none of the extra drives are enabled. So we're going to be booting it up without all the craziness. So that's actually what's going on. So I think that is pretty cool. So if you're going to be buying an extra drive for more storage capacity, you can actually like slide it in and it will automatically detect by the system itself. But let's get into the Retro Beast, but also give this thing a reboot, because we're going to be booting up the drives itself. Because we're going to be doing an overview of everything. So let me bring you in a day of when Wicked's going to be playing his machine. So what we need to do is power on the machine itself. We need to be very quick, or not like super quick, but what we need to do is normally like opening up the machine, booting up the drives. There we go. They're all booting up. And that's it. Way to actually be booting up. You can see it's still in the Gigabyte, and it will take up a little bit more time now because it's actually like activating all the drive through the USB. And when the machine is going to be booting up, you will getting the message. If everything is okay, you're getting the message that all the drives are okay, enabled and ready to go. The machine has been booted up like we previously did. So let's wait up a little bit of a second. And if everything is okay, we're going to be having not boot of the Retro Beast. There we go, having the bling bling of the USB. Bling bling bling, pop pop. And this will take up a little bit of time. You can see it needs to load up every single freaking drive. And this is also a great check if you want to see if everything works like it's supposed to be. Okay, it's flickering. And there we go. All of the drives are present. Everything is correctly configured and we're ready to go. And now we'll automatically boot up into the Chris Cool mode. And all of the stuff that has been added will be implemented into the system. So what happens if you're going to be not doing it? You're just going to be having all of the categories, but it doesn't do anything. If you're going to be clicking on, you're just going to be getting no list. And there we go, boot up, and we're ready to go for playing some games. Yeah. So we're going to be having a triple screen, let's say, overall configuration, what I think is very unique to the machine itself. It's not perfect, I'm just going to be honest with it. I think it's to do of the overall, let's say, positioning of, and of course the resolution, everything. So when it comes to the LCD marquee, I think this is absolutely a must-have. You can see it looks absolutely great. So when you're looking at the 27-inch display, so first of all, we do have a little bit of reflection today, but that's to do because of the front glass. It's also a little bit of a smoke with a special coating, and giving this like an overall, let's say, interesting, let's say, look at the display itself. Not like a bad way, but I mean in a good way. So you can see the LEDs on the Ultimark is absolutely beautiful. I think one of the cool things that we're going to be even having a light up ball top, but again, like that's something of a personal. I just wanted to go full out when it comes to the control panel itself. And yeah, you know, going to be having automatically switching to 4 to 8 way. So the buttons are actually concave. So what you can actually do, what Daniel sometimes do, is like seamless artwork, where you can put the artwork in here, but I didn't want to do that. I just want to have like full RGB craziness. At the front, we're going to be finding a tiny LCD display that actually indicate with the Pecto what kind of configuration has been set to. So we're going to be using the Pecto Tech 4000 the T, and of course here at the side we're going to be having the on and off switch. So, and then the display itself. So where I actually said it doesn't really look great. Sometimes you can actually see these very cool movies, and they will keep playing if you're going to be playing actually in certain game. So sometimes it looks a little bit better than the other time, but again, like, it's no hating against, you know, nobody, because in the end, if you're having a resolution, it would be perfect for shmups. But if you're getting into the video files, you know, it's going to be absolutely a nightmare to configure that. But in the end, I think it's just a really cool overall configuration when it comes to the display and the way how this absolutely present themselves. Daniel did a great job with this. So one thing is a fact, it's absolutely an emulation beast, because this is absolutely an insane overall build with a powerful PC on the inside, beautiful artwork with Akuma at the left side, more emulation beast at the right side, but we're going to be having Evil Ryu, and I must say the artwork has been done perfectly by Mr. Josie. That has been custom made for the machine itself. So it's actually loading up. This is a great example. Sometimes it will put some of the drives in idle if you don't use it to save energy, and of course when it comes to the overall, let's say, usage when it comes to the hard drive. So this happens sometimes. I just wanted to showcase. You can shut it down from the USB. It will automatically always boot up and will stay boot up. But again, then you have like a bunch of drives just actually being inside of the machine, like freaking like loading all the time, and that doesn't make any sense, to be honest. So I'm going to be leaving it as it is. So let's get into the main menu and let's see what can we do with it, because I can tell you there is so much to talk about with the main menu. So let's do a quick in-depth about that and to show you what you're getting now. But let's do a quick overview of the software. Grab some tea because there's a lot to talk about. So first of all, so we're going to be having over here the first category, it's going to be computers. So if you're going to be looking at the way how everything is configured, it's absolutely insane. There is so much to see. So first of all, we're going to be having Amiga, CDTV, and I think that is one of the things you need to take consideration. Having such a crazy amount of different storage capacity, you're going to be having all kinds of different ways to actually store, like not only Steam games, but also particularly we're going to be having all kinds of different categories. There's a great example. Look at how much when it comes to the computers itself. And I think it's, in my opinion, sometimes a little bit overkill. But again, you can just actually spend weeks and weeks going through this to see what is your favorite configuration and what can you actually do. So just deep dive into, let's say, Microsoft Windows 98. So, if you're going to be looking into this, you can see there is all kinds of old school games. So I think that is pretty cool if you just want to get into, let's say, some old school gaming, but not everything going to be perfectly for this arcade machine. I think that is the thing that you need to take consideration, because some of these games are not meant to play by a joystick. Sometimes you can use an external controller, but I doubt that is also working. Sometimes you're going to be needing a keyboard and mouse for it. So that's one thing. So where there's a lot of cool stuff on here, still we're going to be having a lot of things that cannot be used. One-player joystick games. So I think that is pretty sweet. I think this is one of the great examples. So having maybe one of the games that you can just actually play, and this way we can just play fairly easy. So you can find Beat of Rage, you know, some random things in some categories. Is absolutely crazy. But again, we're going to be later on doing a little bit of a gameplay, everything and all of everything you can do with it. Let's go a little bit further with the overall list. So MSX, NEC PC, and let's go on. I just want to do a little bit faster. But you know, if you're going to be looking at it, you can see there is actually an insane amount of different stuff. So next up we're going to be having the handhelds, and with the handhelds we're going to be having a Game Boy and everything like what you can expect. One of the cool features if you're having nowadays the Game Boy Link system, and this way we can just play games together, and this works absolutely perfect. But again, you can expect the most, like say, common stuff, but also an easier pocket. But do you really need like an extreme, like say, overall configuration like this? Yeah, not really. So an interesting one is Sega Nomad. He made like a special, like say, category for this. So I don't know what's the point of having a Sega Nomad category. You know, that is one of the things that makes no sense whatsoever. So if you're going to be looking further, you're going to be having Engage, Pico 8 and some other cool ones like including PSP and PS Vita. You know, there's so much stuff that's going to be, like say, being updated and so many new different games to play. So you know, when it comes for, let's say, configurations like the PS Vita, like is the support going to be becoming better, you're going to be having some insane amount of different stuff to play. So moving on to the consoles, you know, at the consoles we're going to be having all kinds of interesting things. So we're going to be having the option to play everything now. Like we're having a more powerful PC. If you're going to be having like maybe an RTX 5090 or something insanely, you can even have like say no limit at all. But again, like what's kind of cool, having over here DuckStation and PlayStation. So I don't know exactly what kind of emulator runs with the PlayStation, maybe the EPSXE or something else, but DuckStation is more accurate what I understand of. So I think that's pretty cool. So if you have like a different list with the DuckStation emulator itself, so having even better overall emulation performance. You know, there is PlayStation 4 or 5 on this, but yeah, you know, it's going to be something, yeah, it's more like for streaming, or having a couple of, let's say, lost games. So like, for example, I have the PlayStation 5 Play Night, so you can actually stream if you're hooking up this through your system itself. So we're going to be having the favorite list. This is something I really love to do, because when it comes to the global favorites, so what you can do is like making a massive list for yourself. And in this way we can just like add all of my favorite games, because that's in the end what you're doing. You know, you're going to be adding a lot of games to this machine, and in the end you're going to be having just a certain kind of amount you're going to be liking. So with the global favorites, let's take a closer look at it. So in here we're going to be having all of the games that I selected throughout every single category. So next up we're going to be having arcade. This is a section that's going to be super interesting for my machine over here. So we're having all kinds of interesting, let's say, situations like 3D Gamer, Arcade Nights, you know, and Naughties. Let's see what's going on with this. I'm really curious. You know, this is even a section I didn't even explore myself. But you know, this is absolutely awesome. You have all kinds of different games, different kind of systems. And you know, when it comes for booting up, it's just a click of a button. But beat 'em ups, rhythm games, fighting, flying, MAME, we're having a light gun. Well, I must say that there's a light gun section, so you can actually have like a different full section only light gun games. And you know, with light gun games we're having all kinds of, this is like the old MAME classics. But if you're going to be looking at Maze, arcade multiplayer, I think that is pretty cool if you want to play together. You know, so there are like all kinds of categories you can just deep dive into. I'm guessing you're going to be finding a lot of duplicate of games. I mean, particularly when it comes to, let's say, certain platforms. But again, like when you're going to be looking into the racing, it would be cool if like an arcade with a racing wheel attached to it. Yeah, it can actually like race. I don't have the option. Maybe that would be fun to build myself like an arcade racing cabinet in the future and just add all of the games to one machine. Shooter, shmups, you name it. Trackball classics. That is another very cool one. But you know, if I find some interesting ones like this particular like section, never seen it, never heard of it when it comes to, let's say, the games itself. So the list goes on and on and on. But yeah, that's the question, is this not going to be a little bit of an overkill when it comes for searching the searching for a certain game? Nevertheless, moving on to the next page, arcade boards. So we're having the arcade like MAME and different platforms, section, whatever kind of configuration, having over here like the overall boards itself. And in here we're going to be finding TeknoParrot. What is cool, this is like TeknoParrot with a controller, racing wheel. In here we're going to be having TeknoParrot with a trackball. We're going to be having the Lightgun section, even Triforces in here, arcade PC, and I think this is one of my favorite sections, the PopCap. Oh yeah, PopCap games, particularly the PC games. This is going to be one of the sections I love because they do have like a lot of original games. I think it's absolutely fun. What I love about it, if you're pressing right over here, we're going to be having the favorite list inside of the PC. And yeah, this is going to be such an easy way to just like go into my games that I normally love to play. But again, the list is just insane, and you can just spend a full day on just checking out what kind of games you want to play. Moving on, having the fan-made stuff. I love it. I love just the fan-made stuff. I mean, in particular when looking into certain kind of wicked things, you know, all kinds of very weird, obscure, custom-made things I've never seen before. And you can find some surprisingly fun games there. Wait, what is... No. No, Chris, no, you cannot. No, Chris. But again, like we're having hacked games, special edition games that you never like released. And of course, we're having over here the linked version. See, what I mentioned before, like we're having the link is like a section we've seen again. So this is actually, let's go back to the collections. We're going to be having certain collections. If you want to have a certain kind of franchise, we can actually find them all here. Okay, we're having imports. So this is a section I don't really care about too much, but for the people who love import games, having the computers, you know, and you know, if you're going to be going through having the handhelds again, and this is actually how it overall works. Global favorites has been updated, if I'm correctly. We're going to be having a couple of new games in here, and we're going to be having all kinds of very fun ways to play. Nevertheless, let's get into some gaming and let's just check it out. So one of the things I wanted to check out first is the trackball. Yep, we're going to be having a lot of fun because there is a lot of cool things with TeknoParrot and maybe we can do with it. Let's see, we are in the arcade. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, and this is one thing, is a little bit of a downside having too much stuff on here, like too many categories. So we're going to be needing to deep dive into, like say, the list. Trackball classics. There we go. And in here we're going to be finding a really cool overall list. So let's go through like a couple of games and let's see if there are like any ones that work. Let's put it this way, they will work, but are they any fun? Get some Star Fox vibes over here. But playing this with a trackball is really convenient, but... Oh, I can just hold the button. Boom, 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 boom. But to giving you a little bit of an idea what kind of games that you can actually just play. So we're having here this Pac-Man version, Fire Beast, you know, that's weird. Having over here extra bases. There are a lot of baseball games, Dino Bob. Like, there was a lot of games that I personally don't feel any connection with already. Danger Zone! Yep. Yeah, there's the Cube Quest that I already did. And you know, there's a lot of weird games. I really love this cool pool. This game was fun. Like, not the most beautiful game out there, but you know, it's fun. Let's see, we're going to be having Championship Bowling. You know, graphical-wise, I don't really find it appealing. We're having Centipede, of course. Capcom Bowling, Cabal. So this is a game that I actually played, like with the joystick itself. So you know, those kind of games, it would be interesting to actually look into what you can do with it with a trackball. Bolorama. I understand like this is a very fun game, but it's two-dimensional. And you know, when you're going to be looking into the overall game collection, there's so much random, but also old school stuff. And you know, when it comes to this, I must say that I don't really find all of the games really appealing. So let me deep dive into a couple of ones. We can just play darts, but this is one of the favorite games I love to play, is the World Class Bowling. We're having the normal and the deluxe. Let's get into the deluxe version, see what we can do. We can just have multiple players, but we're going to be playing alone today. Do I need to press start? somewhat different by every single game. Move the trackball for game, regulation. No, we're just going to be pressing regulation. So what I'm going to be doing is seeing if we can put it in a certain position and then... Oh, Jesus! And with this massive trackball, it's absolutely really satisfying. And the fun fact, a lot of people coming to the man cave here, they never played with a trackball. Oh! Yes. Normally I'm hitting a lot of strikes, but I'm not doing that today. Okay, there we go. One pin. We have this game called Snack and Jackson. Okay, this is maybe the most wicked game that we can actually play. Let's put in some credits. This is really old. Breakfast. Shuffle Shot is a game that I actually played a lot with some friends. You can even go all the way up to 4 players. But I can tell you it's really challenging and very difficult actually. So it's completely done bowling. Graphical wise it looks okay, you know, it's a little bit weird. Of course playing against the CPU, they are like crazy good. So what you can actually do is doing this real hard.
Slow down.
Yes, and I actually bounced into myself. That is what you don't want to do. And of course the computer is like completely beating my ass. Having some old school classic ones like Missile Command. I know there's even like a new version on here. But let's go with the classic one. Let's see if it works out of the box. Okay. Let's see, where's my shooting button? There we go. The sensitivity of the trackball is perfect. Who doesn't love mini golf? Yeah. On games, I like this, I love it, but in real life, I freaking hate them. I'm always like raging. But I have no... Oh. I need to be very careful what I'm doing over here. Okay. Seriously? Okay. So I actually need to move the ball to the way I actually want to move. Actually, what kind of direction I need to move to. That's just pure luck. Seriously. So this trackball is really fun. I've been playing a lot of mini golf games on the PC and everything, but with this second trackball it's absolutely fun. Hoppa! There we go. Second try. Oh crap. What happens if I'm going to be falling in there? How do we go from to a certain part there? Oh, okay. So it's simple, but it's absolutely a lot of fun, you know? But where this absolutely makes the trackball situation shines the most is that going to be playing some golf. So we have actually seen a lot of classics, but also, let's say, simple two-dimensional games. But this is just, I'd say, the most fun. Let's go, come on.
For one, trying for bogey.
Oh, so seriously? I think the weirdest thing that I've ever played is Pac-Man with a trackball. Like, I don't really like it at all. It looks like a modified version. You can actually see here the inputs. You know, it's something you need to get used to, but no, this is not the way I want to play. Just give me a freaking joystick. What is interesting is TeknoParrot trackball. So I was thinking like, okay, what can we actually play? And I can tell you that we do have a lot of different editions. But I think what is interesting, we don't have anything in the favorites. So we're having all kinds of weird things in here. Puck off. So let's try a couple of them, because this is interesting. But the unfortunate part is not everything works out of the box. We do have the serial situation where you need to activate that so you can actually play all of your games. Also, the machine is not connected to the internet, so that can also be a problem. But I understand, I've seen it before with TeknoParrot, you have like this thing going on that you need to have like a certain membership program. The next part, we're going to be using the Lightgun situation. So Lightgun, I'm going to be using the Reaper Pro, and I find this absolutely an overall pleasant experience. So I do it like review many different kind of, let's say, Lightgun situation, but actually went for this particular system because I thought it was like an easy plug and play. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's have some fun today. Here you can see the hub. I understand like the new version don't really use it anymore, but correct me if I'm wrong. So at this point we're going to be plugging it in here. So, and the power, and that's it. But also going to be utilizing this for hub. You can see there's an extra USB ports over there. But this way we can just play fairly easy, and here we can adjust the volume if you want to. But we don't need to boot up or reboot the system itself. Everything is configured correctly if I'm right. So when it comes to, let's say, the crystal mod image, what I love about it, setting up the overall, let's say, different light guns can be done fairly easy. So you can see both have been configured, and you know, that is what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be using it. We don't need to actually get into the settings because I already, like I say, did all of the testing and configuration. But let's go and let's take a close look at what kind of light gun games can we play. And at the top we're also noticing that we do have like multiple controllers and even a racing wheel, because the software actually utilized that. And you can see that the controller has been mapped to player 1 over here. So that's kind of cool. If you want to check if buttons are a certain way correctly configured, you can just check it out there. And that makes actually the crystal mod overall configuration so much easier, where I'm not a big fan of Windows itself because it does give you like a lot of hassle sometimes. He also utilizes a more like say a different kind of configuration here with a quick menu, and in here we can actually like do all kinds of, let's say, settings situation. So my trackball is actually a mouse now, so we have like the beast customization. So we can actually boot up special pieces of software for customizing all kinds of parts of the retro piece itself. So here you can actually mess around with all kinds of things. So having over here the control panel, where we can actually mess around with the software itself. We can go into the themes panel, we can go into the MAME. So if there are any problems, he actually made this very nice overall interface. And this way we can just fairly easy, let's say, check some boxes, get into software and mess around with it. So, and I think this is absolutely one of those very cool things that save you tons of time, and this way we can just fairly easy mess around with. So in here we're going to be having the Retro Beast light gun setup, and here we're having the Retro Beast itself. So let's boot it up and let's get into the light gun stuff. Okay, the Retro Beast. So what I find absolutely an interesting way is that you can actually activate and navigate the menu if you want to. So the analog stick is automatically mapped, and you can just see you can go into certain kind of, let's say, parts of the system. So what we're going to be doing is getting into the light guns. So that's what we're going to be doing. Just going to be using this particular controller. It's going to be so much easier. Consoles, handhelds, computers, import. There's like this crazy light gun section. So let's do a quick overview what kind of categories we actually have. So we're going to be having arcade gunner games, we're having MAME light gun games, 3DO, Action Max, American Laser, Android shooters. To be honest, I don't really like these shooter thingies, Android, but that's personal. The old Atari, don't have any connection with those two. So we do have Atomic Wave, Dreamcast, Flash games, Sega Genesis, Indie Real Shooter, MS-DOS, and there is actually so much crazy stuff that you can just play. Even PlayStation 1 has their own section, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, Sega CD, and you know, this is so freaking nuts how much stuff that you can choose from. So even there is a light gun 4-player option if you want to configure this, and we're having arcade gunner like I mentioned before. So in the mention, yeah, you know, in this particular part we're going to be having all kinds of random stuff. Pressing right, we're having over here my favorite games, like normal, and that's it, you know. But you know, when you're going to be looking at the overall quality, like in Candy Crush Saga, yeah, you can play with light gun, but that's the stuff I don't want to actually, yes, Joe, play. So I'm actually going to be avoiding this because Fruit Ninja with a light gun makes no sense. If you're going to be getting into the MAME situation, everything will be actually controlled by the light gun itself, by pressing start and putting in credits. So when it comes to games like these, you can actually play them on, let's say, in PI, so you don't really need an overall, let's say, an extreme setup like this, but they're absolutely an overall fun addition. A little bit of a point blank game. 0 Point. It's absolutely an interesting game. Oh, I need to have the red one. Oh, he's quick. The accuracy of the retro shooter is great. Freaking hell!
Will soon be mine.
Let's go with some Time Crisis, the arcade edition.
Action.
But I love that they actually use this particular button here at the side. There is no other button that has been configured. We do have like a rumble activation.
Action.
And of course with the PC we're having now, this runs really smooth. So with Steel Gunners, I think the downside is that we don't have the rumble activated. So you do have like a single rumble, but I think these games absolutely benefit if this thing goes crazy with the rumble function. What I can actually do is going into a different mode of the retro shooter now actually shut down the overall rumble function itself. So let's move this thing to the back. And this is the way how you actually want to play. And that's what I love about the retro shooter Reaper. You can just slide it into a certain position. Oh crap. Really satisfying, I can tell you that. But what is kind of interesting, that I actually still set it to the single shot. But if I'm going to be playing, it now communicates with the Reaper itself. And you can actually see why I'm getting low power of the plasma rifle I'm using now. It will also slow down the overall rifle and the recoil power. That is really cool. Let's get some ammo. Do we have ammo here somewhere? There we go. Oh man, this is so cool. And this is absolutely the most fun way to play. Even if I'm getting some damage from the Terminators, my freaking light gun is actually rumbling. Running the Xbox Classic emulator with Virtual Cop number 3. To bring it to the next level, let's see how the overall communication will be done with the rumble. I did feel the rumble now, so let's skip everything. Let's skip the intro. So what is kind of cool, you can, I don't know if you didn't notice it, but if you're out of bullets, and also the lighting feature is different, but also the recoil will be in a certain position that your gun is empty. See, that is freaking cool. We can just reload with the side button. The Ocean Hunter from the Model 3. So let's get into the game. So with arcade so far, everything is going to be very easy to navigate through, let's say, the overall controls of the light gun itself. But let's see if we can boot it up and how the overall gameplay is. This is more like a real shooter game. So what I find always interesting with light gun games in general, so you know, sometimes it feels more of the same. Where some games are absolutely legendary, Virtual Cop, if it comes to then, yeah, some other games, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a system, some of them are really great. But this feels more like a generic shooting game. It's fun to play for once, but this, So we also have like emulation of multiple systems, like going consoles like PlayStation 1, 2, 3. For example, having over here Virtual Cop.
Virtual Cop Elite Edition!
But we don't have any marquee, so that's a little bit of a bummer. So Virtual Cop, there are a lot of different versions on this machine itself. We're having different, like say, I think there's also one for the Sega Saturn or so. That's the one I actually know from back in the day. But so when it comes to the gameplay itself, it's a little bit different. The communication between the light gun. For example, if your gun is empty, we don't have the situation that will stay in this position. Reload can be done by the light gun itself. but it is very accurate out of the box. So moving into the PlayStation 3 era, we have some really amazing games that I really love to play. I also checked this out, like say almost on other machines I actually reviewed in the past. But you know, when you're going to be looking at the way how everything is configured, let's see how it's playable this thing is. I think the next step when it comes for PlayStation 3 emulation and having the Lightgun situation, we're going to be having TeknoParrot that looks absolutely awesome. But let's see. I don't know how this actually part is going to be working, but do I need to press something? See this?
Hurry up. We're gonna get hit.
No, that doesn't work so far, I understand, but you know, this is the thing that I mean, you know.
They brought their ship alongside. Make them regret they came after us.
Can I finally freaking start shooting?
Your gun.
Yes, sir.
Shoot them with your holding gun.
Oh yes. But the communication with the Reaper works perfectly.
Do it. You got to aim sharp. It's not quite over yet.
And now it will be disabled as well. So that's pretty cool. So you can shoot, it will automatically activate the Reapers. Moving into something else, Sega CD. Of course we're gonna play the Mega Drive, Genesis and all the other ones, but I just wanted to see what's going on. Like, does this actually works out of the box? And yeah, let's go with the gun. There we go. Okay, that seems to be working fine. Let's skip the craziness. Do love that we have a cursor now. Okay, this is pause, okay. Okay, how do I reload? Everything is freaking pause. Oh, there we go. But you know what's kind of interesting? You can see flickering of the screen itself, and normally that has to do because you have a light gun with a CRT. But you know, there are even some new release, let's say, games out there, or at least like when it comes to the, let's say, official light gun kits, they remove the flashing. I don't know if they can actually do that in emulation, but because we don't actually need it anymore. That's what I mean. But TeknoParrot is actually one of my favorite ways to play, because there are so many cool graphical games that utilize the Reaper perfectly. So when an Aliens, Armageddon or Extermination, they are fun, you know, we've played them, we've seen them with different kind of arcade machines. But you know, when you're going to be looking into this, there's even like some Castlevania game out there. There are so many cool games, and I think this is absolutely the best way to just play. Even the Ghost Squad, this I think was released on the Wii as well. You don't need that version, or maybe it's different. But when it comes to that, and sometimes all of these games are out of the box playable. Let's Go Island, stuff like that. It's going to be having the same situation that we're going to be having the Extreme Reaper, let's say Recall going wild. But again, there are a lot of different kind of games on there. Pull Trigger, some really weird ones I've never seen. Raccoon Rampage, you know, what the heck? That is a game that's kind of cool. They're showcasing over here the original arcade machine. And so there are many different ways. Some of them, like I think it was Rambo, was beautiful looking and absolutely something you're going to be needing a quality, high-powered GPU for. And nevertheless, when you're going to be looking at this, like there's some weird, like a Skylander Cloud Patrol. What the heck is that? So what I think is pretty cool, that we're going to be having different kind of communication with the machine gun, fucking the shotgun. Going to be having different kind of recall. That's freaking cool. So to the point I'm going to be empty with all of my shotgun ammo. Going to be having this kind of recall. But if you're going to be choosing a different kind of machine, let's say like a minigun or machine gun, or minigun is actually called, we're going to be having a completely different, really satisfying recall over here. I never know this thing could recall so fast as this. And when I'm out, it will go back to the normal speed. Actually, the game of the Transformers have been played before. It's just a real shooting game, a lot of fun. But with the Reaper I can really enjoy this. But also the speed of the recoil is perfectly adjusted to the game.
Optimus, you're right on time!
So let's move into something more, let's see, so more of a retro arcade game. It's going to be The House of the Dead number 4. So far this doesn't have any situation or communication done. But okay, that part seems to be working. Let's go to the Reaper and let's go with what kind of recoil we can actually use, but somehow it doesn't do anything.
They just keep coming.
Let's see what's going on with this particular one. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm letting the trigger go, it will automatically reload. We don't have any feedback, it doesn't work with this.
Let go of me.
So I don't know if I need to press a button. Oh, there we go. Raccoon Rampage. Let's see what kind of weird game this is today.
Select a map.
This is going to be cool. So you have those weird, very weird games that I've been actually messing around with in the arcades.
Get ready to fight.
Oh, they automatically shoot. You just need a point. It looks really cool. But yeah, that's kind of boring, you know? Well, let's take a close look at Alien Extermination. Let's see how this actually works. So normally I do play this with these massive like alien guns or like the original way. You don't have any feedback. Let's see if I can actually slide into a certain position. No, the feedback itself has been completely disabled. But this game is okay, to be honest. Like, this is not like the most favorite game. Let's see where the flamethrower is. Oh, at the bottom part. So the game runs pretty well. Another rail shooter. But let's go back to the control panel and let's take a close look at the spinner, because there are actually 2 of them, and let's see if we can find some games that actually work with them. So both spinners are actually the same configuration, but I went for the Ultimark, and you do have like different kind of configuration with the weight. So let's move into the spinner. However, what I did notice, you have multiple arcade playlists, and not everyone is going to be configured with the spinner itself. So that's always like a little bit of a situation. It's super sensitive. Holy crap. Holy crap. This is really difficult. I already find it difficult, but I stuck balls at this. Come on, let's give it one attempt. See, this is how sensitive it is. I will barely need to move it. There we go. I need the large one. I need the large one! Oh, missed it. So what is super cool, that is really sensitive. If you get a hang of it, you can react very fast. Whoa, 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 multi-ball! This is so nasty. Every single time I have like an upgrade. Yes. Ha! Nice. Come on, there we go. So let's get into another Arkanoid game. Let's see. Whee! Oh crap. But if you're getting the hang of it, I think they're actually perfectly adjusted to the spinball. The spinner, spinner, I mean. Yeah, this is absolutely the way how you want to play this. Of course you can use the joystick, but that is not low fun. Oh, no, multi, oh, that's insane. How they keep splitting? Oh, that is chaos itself. Yeah, this is awesome. Woo! There we go. Whoa. Oh, this is fun. This is fun. Attack Force. Let's get into some really old school games. If it's even going to be working at all. Let's see how I need to start it up. That was like a little bit of a situation. See, that's what I mean. You know, not every single game is perfectly configured. So that's quite unfortunate. So I was actually looking into it like, okay, we're having Attack UFO. let's boot that one up and let's see if we can get into some other games that's actually spinner enabled. So I can actually ask Chris himself, like, is there anything with a spinner going on? Because I know, like, with the trackball, it's, can I say, niche, but with a spinner, you don't really see this a lot, like a spinner. But again, it would be fun to actually deep dive into, let's say, later, let's say, different kind of games, which one actually supports. But you can see also this doesn't work. So it's really depending what kind of game you're going to be having. And there are so many games, we're having Avalanche, but it knows like where somehow Arcanine is like recognizing the input, but when you're going to be looking into some other games, we don't have that at all. But pushing the machine to its limit with different kind of games, but just mess around with it with MAME and all kinds of different configurations. So you already know that like sometimes you're going to be booting up a game, you can actually see some of the colors are actually be changing. However, I need to be honest with you guys that that is not corresponding perfectly. And this has to do because LED Blinky and XM and the encoder board of Pecto are actually configured on a different way. And normally I just shut it off and give him like a demo mode because I don't really care about that situation that's going to be showcasing certain buttons you can play like this one over here. But how about playing with the arcade stick? Of course, not everything can be played with arcade stick like racing games. That makes no sense whatsoever. So what I mentioned throughout the video, so one of the things I'm going to be using a lot is actually the global favorite. I love this. This is so convenient because I can actually just go into my favorite list. I've been like digging through the pile of different games that have been added to the drives, and just in this way you can just have fun, you know, just play. However, I think what is interesting, like Undermine is a great example of like a different game that you can play, but you know, normally you do play these games with two freaking joysticks. So I did notice like this is a game that can be played without, let's say, too much of a hassle. Go away, you grieving freaking blobbies. Oof. The positive side is actually that because when it comes to, let's say, the overall input configuration with the Pecto, a lot of games are working perfectly without, let's say, a lot of hassle of configuration inside of, say, let's say the games itself. So like I mentioned before, we don't have a freaking controller, so it's going to be a little bit different. But these games are absolutely perfect for just playing on the arcade machine. So the only downside I did notice when it comes to playing Windows games, you do need to have a little bit of messing with a keyboard sometimes. Alt-Enter is your big friend, because this way we can just get full screen. So with Windows we actually do need a freaking annoying keyboard. But yeah, that's the reason why I personally don't find, let's say, when I say hate or some kind, but you know, it's a little bit of a situation that we're going to be having always with these, let's say, freaking Windows games. Some of the games you only need to set up once and then you're going to be having not a problem anymore. Also a little bit of difference in audio levels, but we do have like the wheel for adjusting the volume underneath here.
There's 2 points.
Such a cool game. Wonder Boy, a game that I actually played a lot on the arcade, or we're playing it on the arcade with the new edition. You know, there's absolutely one you should check out if you love old school games that are completely redone. Let's see if we can actually do something. It's getting stuck. Hello? I know what's actually going on. Yeah, I do have an idea. Wait a second. I needed to charge, or actually load up the hard drive. So let's go with normal. Let's see. Let's go normal. Go for TomTom. Let's get rid of the cursor itself. I already was a little bit playing around with it, and And I can tell you it's absolutely a very good remaster edition. Looks absolutely great. So this is one of those games that I just always love to play. And again, it's still not something that you're going to be needing a very powerful dedicated PC for. This is Adro 2. This is actually released on PC, but also I think it's even released on Sega Dreamcast. And this is a very cool game. It's getting back to the 16-bit era. Of course, this looks absolutely great with a 4:3 aspect ratio. Auto fire, super easy. Great music. This is absolutely a perfect game to play on the arcade. And this is what I just love to play all day. With Killer Instinct, the arcade version is absolutely a very cool overall fun game just to play. Nevertheless, this is a game that you do need a little bit more power for. And of course we can play all kinds of Street Fighter, Tekken, you name it. So when it comes to, let's say, the overall configuration of the machine, I just love to play the two-dimensional stuff, you already know this. And of course with Sonic Mania, it's a very fun overall experience. I cannot recall how many times I've this freaking game bought and many different systems. So when it comes to a PC like this, you can also play emulation without any problem whatsoever. So I don't want to deep dive into this rabbit hole too much, because in the end, when you're looking at many of these systems, you can just play them on simple machines nowadays. However, the thing that I find really appealing is of course still some PC Engine, you know, where I do actually play this a lot on my setup with the original turbo graphics. You know, it's still a lot of fun actually getting into these older things. Nevertheless, you don't need to build like this massive machine for playing these old games. I think it's going to be absolutely a lot of fun. You need a controller. And I'm just going to be honest, like there is so freaking much you can choose from. I think Sega Dreamcast is one of those systems that I can really enjoy myself with a machine like this. With a simple reason, there are so many cool games, arcade related games. And so we don't really need to do any testing whatsoever for performance. This runs everything without any problem in higher resolution. It looks really sharp, so I'm guessing it's running on the full 4K rendering resolution now. There we go. Is there a button we can do super move? Where it gets really interesting is Xbox 360. You know, that I like the system we normally cannot play because of the overall, let's say, difficulty of emulation. I don't know if this every single time you're going to be booting up, but yeah, it's going to be asking all kinds of random things in the emulator itself. So we need to press OK. And then we can actually start. Alright, so let's see if we can get through this. So let's go with the slot itself. Okay, choose something. Okay, re-enable, whatever, create save data, and I think then it's going to be okay. Left side, please. So when it comes for this, like sometimes you need to do this in single time, sometimes you need to actually do this more often. But this is actually now running on the Xbox 360 emulator, so I think that is really sweet. Going to be looking so much better. Let's see how the overall performance is of Xbox 360. And again, it's all about like how much performance your PC has and what kind of games are supported. I don't see any hiccups so far. But I think I need to be patient, or I need to get a different game. Let's see. So Soul Calibur didn't want to boot up. Let's get into the other game. There are actually two of them. Let's see if it will boot up into the game. I don't know if it's a compatibility issue or this is just a general thing going on. This makes no sense to play this with a freaking joystick arcade controller, but the reason why, I wanted to see how it actually works. little bit of a test bench. Okay. Oh, there we go. I just needed to find my buttons. Did hear some minor hiccups in the beginning, but... And yep, we can actually play Forza on the arcade machine. Do some minor hiccups so you can just see them. Making this not like the full Forza experience, but still, it's a lot of fun to see this running. So yeah, in the end, emulation-wise, we can actually play it all. But I don't like playing with a joystick and racing. So at this point, we can actually conclude that this machine and this configuration can run it all. We have all the different ways to play, from spin it, trackball, arcade, joystick if you want to, or just joystick controller, and of course the Lightgun. One machine that can actually do it all. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you think of a machine like this. It would be great if you join me on the channel, and I will see you in the next video.